Okay, today I'm making a new batch of the round carbon briquettes. No graphite's going to be added because graphite shears and makes those very weak. The best binder is the corn flour. This version is going to be, there's 500 mils of water with 20 grams of nickel sulfate added to the corn flour as the binder. I'll be using the same briquettes powder I crushed up. That's those red heads all crushed. And once I bind them together, they'll be put in the furnace and hopefully make some nickel particle nanoparticles. So I gotta heat that up and keep stirring it. So I'll get back to stirring. So the idea here is to use a metal catalyst to graphitize the binder to the rest of the carbons. So one of Robert Murray Smith's videos got recommended from 7 years ago, where he was using some iron chloride to graphitize some wood pieces. So I thought I'd give it a try in my binder. It will graphitize this stuff, and that should help bind that. The standard wheat flour wasn't a very good binder, and also adding graphite was not very good. The graphite seems to shear and make this cell weaker. The other one I got running now, which is on its 17th charge, is much better than this one. That was the negative of the last test though. But so it breaks apart too easy. The other one, which is a corn flour binder, doesn't break apart like this one. You can sort of see it in there where the zinc was plating to it, and it just breaks away. And this also should add little particles of nickel. It's only for the positive side carbons, so it'll only be for those tubes. I'll just make up a straight batch. Maybe I'll put some zinc sulfate in the other one. Yeah, I'll stick some zinc sulfate for the negative electrodes and do the same, so we can have a comparison, because at the moment I've duplicated the other cell, which is running now, is 300 milliamps. Seems like that's all it's getting, like the first one. Okay, this is the consistency you want of your binder for this purpose. Oh, take it off the thing. It looks nice to eat, but if you eat that, you probably get cancer in 30, 40 years. Alright, time to get dirty. Okay, I made 4 standard ones. So I got 1, 2, 3 and 4, and these other 3, well, there's a half of one, but that's about as high as that one. It has 1 cup of that carbon the others are made out of, and the rest is uncooked feather carbon. So I don't know how they'll go, but I'm going to try one. That will be interesting to see how the feather will handle that. Oh, it was quite messy doing the feathers. I have this old pillow still, and that's all the feathers I got left. I've looked on eBay, you can buy 2 feather pillows for $39 shipped, so I can get feathers fairly cheap. So those ones going to be a bit interesting. It's a bit damp still, so I've used all of that binder with the nickel sulfate in it. Hopefully they don't crack. These ones were drying out, sort of. It was getting harder to push through that tube. So they took 2 hours to pack. It took an hour to mix the binder. So that was 3 hours for 7 of them. Alright, so all I've got to do now is make the rods, not today, some other day. and then let them dry a bit and then kiln them, or put them in my furnace over there as hot as I can get that for about 4 hours, and they should be okay if they survive that treatment. Okay, today I made the negative electrodes. These ones have zinc sulfate, so I started off with 200 mils of distilled water. I put 20 grams of zinc sulfate, dissolved all of that, then I use 6 tablespoons of cornstarch or corn flour and bring that up to temperature to about 76 degrees. And once it was thick, like in the other video, previous thickness, I added 2 cups of the carbon, whatever carbon you have. Don't put graphite. Graphite shears off for some reason. And I used a flat plate and rolled them out. This one here, I added some little bit extra water, and I got a much better surface. So you can sort of dab them with some water while you roll them, and they turn out better. That one was the last one, and it sort of dried out. Needed some water, I think, but it should be alright. So those electrodes will be dried for 4 days, same as those things. The further carbon ones are firming up. Well, they're not carbon yet, it's just got a little bit of carbon just to help dry the mix out for pressing them. I just use this rod and press them in my little mould here, little jig, and I use the petrol lid to pop them out with. Okay, so in 4 days I got some time, so I'll furnace all of these in one go. So these ones have nickel sulfate in them, and those ones there have zinc sulfate. Hopefully they turn out. That's longer than my crucible, so I'll cut it in half. Okay, I'm back. I've furnaced the briquettes, but these 3 were at the top. I think they got, of the crucible that is, I think air got to them while they were doing their soft. Going all powdery on the outside. So 3 failed. One of the standard carbon ones, which was at the bottom, which is those ones, survived. Has a funny colouring on the outside there. The other ones, which were also at the bottom, they seem to have survived. They carboned up pretty well. They're pretty light compared to that one. I don't think they're strong. I could probably crush that with my fingers. But I'm surprised they didn't shrink so much. I reckon the structure of the feather is still intact throughout that cell inside. So these ones had nickel in them. So did that one. The rods all seem to come out properly. They didn't seem to damage. This time I didn't bury everything in carbon ash. Maybe that's why they went like this. They sort of look like they expanded with the air getting to them by their shape. Well, that would probably still be usable for crushing up, making flat cells. We'll see how these ones go with the nickel in them. Well, I'll try 2. Pick one of these. It's got a bit of weight. I might be able to tighten some wire on there. And see if that does anything. Lucky I got one to test, which is intact, of the non-feather carbon one. So we can compare these to these. They're only pulling out 300 milliamp hours. I can't get any more with the absorption method. Maybe coating them with binder and some nickel hydroxide might increase the yield of power. because I don't think they'll absorb too much actually. So a bit disappointed with those ones. They really went bizarre. The light carbon, look, and the powder. Oh, the tube holds up, look. Oh, yeah, there you go, it does crush. Ooh. So the inside of it. Doesn't look much different to the other ones. So that was it, using a metal catalyst to graphitize it. It was hot, it was left in the furnace for 4 hours. Alright, when I get some time I'll make a cell. Okay, back. I'm getting ready to test the feather carbon version of the cell. I've got around about 2 meters of nickel wire, which is 0.4 mil in diameter. I decided to wrap it multiple times, and from that end there to the inside edge you get around about 1.4 ohms, which ain't too bad, I guess. I'm going separator-less with the negative electrode, which I've plated. This is what we have left of one of these for the zinc plating. So if I tar that out, we'll be able to weigh this. So we have around about 17 grams of zinc on this cell. What I tried to do was bridge the top to the stainless screw what goes into the carbon for conductivity. That part of the cell won't be in the liquid anyway, which is potassium hydroxide. I discovered that using 1 mole of potassium hydroxide is a lot better. A 6 mole version of the electrolyte will dissolve this in 3 hours, so it strips it completely off without a charge. I mean, without discharging it. So it's quite built up there, little dendrites happening. Just got it in that PVC container so it doesn't touch the edges. As you can see, it falls off a bit, it's a bit delicate, the zinc. So the feather carbon version of the cells are 45 grams, it's quite light, plus the nickel. So you lightly wrap that around there and sort of screw it up each time you wrap it. So let's stick that one in the 1 mole solution of potassium hydroxide. Right, I might have to add some more electrolyte. I've got some made already in here. That's no longer 6 mole, it's only 1 mole. I have 2 grams of zinc oxide and about 1/2 gram of zinc powder in that electrolyte as well. Oh, might need 2 hands to get that in there. It's a bit tight. Alright, I'll set that up and we'll get back. Okay, this is a 7 mole concentration of potassium hydroxide of 6 grams of zinc oxide dissolved. It's sort of just 6.5 grams of zinc oxide. I'll give it another hour or so of stirring, and I think it's saturated now. Had 1 gram of zinc powder, which seems to have just sort of turned into balls and hasn't really dissolved much. I reckon that's about 1 gram floating around still. Probably slightly under 1 gram maybe. Some of it would have had to have dissolved. So I first started with a 1 mole, but that was not dissolving much of the zinc oxide at all, and slowly added the concentration, and when I got to about 6 mole the zinc oxide definitely started dissolving better. It's been I've been doing that over 3 days, so leaving it overnight and everything just to see if time was a factor, but so it's now at 7 mole concentration with 6.5 grams of zinc oxide and 1 gram of zinc powder. I've coated this electrode with some zinc ready for the cell. So that was the full sheet, only a little part of it. So not a lot of zinc coated onto there. The cell's going to be this one, which is coated in the conductive graphene ink with 5 grams of nickel hydroxide and 3 grams of zinc hexacyanoferrate mixed into the graphene ink, then smeared on the inside and also the outside, and also the holes are drilled through there to help zinc movement in the electrolyte. Alright, so I'll get back. Alright, I just set the cell up with the 7 mole solution. 7 mole and 6.5 grams of zinc oxide, 1 gram of zinc powder, and that's the remainder of the zinc powder. So that's probably a gram, it didn't really dissolve or something. We're at 1 volt without a charge at the moment. I mean 1.5. So I'll set up for a charge at 2.4 volts. Okay, connecting the charger now. It'll take a while for the binder to soak in as well. So I'll give it about an hour, 2 hours, just for the first charge, and then tomorrow, when I get more time, I'll charge it. So the electrolyte's gone black already. Okay, back with the feather carbon cell with the stainless wire now wrapped around it. It's been on charge for 2 hours and 46 and we're ready for a discharge. Okay. Slightly smaller because the top part of the cell did break off earlier. It's a 7 mole solution, this one. It's in there now instead of a 1 mole. It's actually frosting the glass, so gotta be careful. Yeah, I'll get back. Okay, cell's been on charge for 2 hours and 30 minutes. Trying a separator instead of the PVC frame thing, and for 2.5 hours. That's our zinc build up. I think it was getting, well, this will prove it maybe, dendrites at the bottom, so hopefully that piece of separator will stop them from touching the carbon. So I'll just disconnect the charge. We'll be able to tell probably. Oh. That don't look good. What happened? Hang on then. Oh, shit. Hoping the lead's out then. Not good. Okay, 1.7. And actually holding. Well, no, it just dropped then. Okay. Maybe the cell did need a separator. Alright, we'll see if we get a little bit longer runtime. That should tell us. Okay, cell's still running, 0.7 volts, 115 milliamp hours, 123 milliwatt hours. So I think the separator definitely makes a difference. That's why there's a separator in that one. So I reckon down at the bottom it does touch with the dendrites. It may be beneficial to wrap some of the separator around the bottom of that carbon ring as well. Okay, much better run. 172 milliamp hours, 159 milliwatt hours, 1 hour and 43 minutes. So I'll give it a few more charges now. Not now, but later on, and they'll get back. Okay, the cell's been on charge for 2 hours and 48 minutes. With separator still. That's our zinc build up. I shouldn't have touched the side then. I think I'd knocked some zinc off. Disconnect the charge. Okay, 100 milliamp discharge. Okay, slightly down compared to yesterday's run. 145 milliamp hours and 144 milliwatt hours. Only an hour and 26, so nearly 20 minutes short. We've depleted all the zinc off of there. I'll fill some, put some more distilled water in here. I'm going to try, oh, where's it going? Here it is. A copper electrode. It's a piece of copper pipe I flattened in, so I'll give that a go now and see if there's a difference. Okay, back with the copper pipe as the negative electrode. It's 2.5 amps, so it's up considerable. Two hours and 33 minutes with the copper tube as the negative electrode. Starting test. So it doesn't look much different to the carbon electrode in its voltage once I put the load on. Which is a good sign for the carbon electrode. Back with the copper rod negative plate. Slightly down on the energy than the carbon one, and a bit higher on the capacity. So, and but it's not completely drained for some reason. Plus the carbon version strips the zinc right off it. This one, not so much. I wonder what happened. Wonder why that's the case. Is it oxidized more on there or something? Let's try this. That definitely doesn't run. What's going on here? It's only doing 48. Odd. Oh well. I have some bare copper wire. I might wrap around the carbon rod and see what happens. That might add extra conductivity to it. So I'll do that at a later date. And I'll get back. Next day, the zinc has deplated from the copper, as you can see. Attempting to wrap some copper wire around that one, which was coated. I broke it. But that gives us a good look inside. Looks like the metal screw there is a funny colour. And there's still liquid in there. Alright, that's been out for about 2 days and it's still wet inside, or it looks wet. So I wrapped around another piece of the some of these I have lying around. It says 0 voltage at the moment. So I'll connect a charge and see how it goes with a bit of copper around the carbon. Okay, the piece of carbon with bare copper wire wrapped around it, same voltage as yesterday, 3.7 amps. So there's a major difference. I'm spewing that I split the other one in half. I was wrapping it up and I broke off the little end piece, and then I fumbled and dropped it on the ground. Cell's been uncharged for 2 hours and 34 minutes at 1.1 amps. So disconnecting the charger. Okay, we're at 1.9 and dropping fast. This is the copper wound carbon electrode, negative side. Let's see how well this goes, or not. Okay, starting 100 milliamp discharge. Right, voltage is around about the same, but dropping fast. Well, not a great run for the cell with the copper coated, or copper wrapped around the center electrode. Only in not even an hour. Not quite sure what's going on. Maybe I broke the separator down there somewhere when I put the copper, because it's sort of hanging out a bit. I'll try it again tomorrow and then maybe replace the separator and see what happens. And another thing, I'm not sure if the zinc's getting from the outside into the center. It's only probably using the center's worth of zinc. If we lift that up a bit, got all of that carbon to get through. And if we lift this cell up and down, the voltage sort of, well, is it stuck now? Oops. Might be binding. I might have to replace that separator. I'll try that. Trying out some micro porous coveralls for the separator. So them there. I use the sleeve piece and wrap the elastic part on the bottom around, so it's covering the bottom as the outer carbon sitting on the ground. It didn't interfere really much with the amperage going in, same voltage as yesterday's charge, and it's up to 2 amps and over. So we'll see how this goes. It might need a couple of charges. I'll try an hour first and see what happens. Not sure how it will go. There's not much room because too much material in there. So see what happens. And also the cell's starting to come apart a bit when I pulled it out of there and handled it. That separator wasn't broken, so I think it's the outer 7 mole solution of potassium hydroxide may be too much for that carbon. The cell's had an hour's charge. I just started it. That's with the microporous overalls, and look at the voltage. Having the overalls wrapped around the bottom of the cell, I think, insulated it from the dendrites, because 1.7 it would have been down to 1.6 straight away. So we'll just see how this actually goes. Actually, that might be acceptable usage of overalls. I got one pair, double XL. They cost $16, so that makes a lot of separators. And it's still at 1.7. That's actually the highest voltage it's been in the cell. I just got to go out, that's why I only did an hour and a half charge. And I wasn't sure to leave this one running. It's untested cell. Alright, I'll get back. Alright, back with the discharge. 2 hours, that's more than it was. I'll give it a longer charge and see what happens. Cell's been on charge for 2 hours and 35 minutes, just disconnecting now. Okay, ready for a discharge, 100 milliamps. Hopefully the cell runs a bit longer. Okay, voltage is still high. Normally it would drop straight down to 1.6. It's a good sign. So it was shorting out at the bottom of the cell all this time. Okay, interesting. So maybe some of the zinc what builds up on plates on the negative electrode don't quite dissolve, and it sinks down to the bottom, and the positive carbon just touches it and shorts. Alright, I'll leave that running and see what we get. Well, the cells only ran 1 hour and 28 minutes on a 2.5 hours charge, so tomorrow I'll try 1.5 hours again and see if it does the 2 hours. Maybe the cell needs to come out of the liquid and then soaked. Not sure what's going on there. Maybe dendrites still build up on the side of the membrane and short the cell. Right, it looks like if you charge it for more than an hour and a half, we get dendrites, because this run was an hour and a half's charge and it ran for 2 hours, 203 milliamp hours and 199 milliwatt hours. And then the other day it was charged for 2.5 hours and only ran for an hour and a half, so I think it's definitely dendrites growing. Right, so after 30 charges on the round cylinder cells, both of them, there's the remainder of one, and that's the feather carbon version. And that's the stuff, that's the carbon which flaked off for some reason every charge, where the original one didn't do that. And that's the reason of the failing of the cell. The center electrode held up. And it's still conductive, but this one, the wiring was going loose. This is the nickel piece. You can see it's some pitting. So it was degrading the surface of this carbon for some reason. Maybe not long enough in the furnace, or I need to do it more times in the furnace. I'm not sure. I'm going to put these ones on hold and start a new cell. So it was a bit of a failure. I couldn't reach the 300 milliamp hours as the original cell. These ones only topped up of about 200 milliamp hours, and that was it. And then it started to degrade. So can't reproduce it yet. Yeah, I'm putting it on back burner. I still got some tubes inside. These are the failed tubes. Got a heap of center electrodes, but don't know about them. Coming up on the next video is the same similar construction sort of, except for it's going to be the flat version. So we're going to be nickel and zinc plate. So we've got two of these plates of zinc, which go on either side of this plate, which is copper coated first, because the first time I tried just with the conductive ink, the nickel flaked off in big chunks. I crushed it up, but the little blender there is, as you can see, is ground too much carbon and the blades are worn off. So what I'll do now is paint some conductive ink on here and sprinkle the nickel hydroxide. That's got carbon mixed into the nickel hydroxide. So that's the next video which will come. Hopefully this battery performs a bit better. So plastic with some copper tape. You have to tape it and then acetone the copper tape, because it has a resin or a wax over it and the ink doesn't quite stick to it properly. So once you do that, it sticks. Then I plated it with copper in copper sulfate. Then this is a nickel plating on both sides. That's 3 hours, an hour and a half each side. So I hope you enjoy this video, and thanks for watching, and stay tuned for this battery. The nickel must be shrinking. 1 hour after drying, look. And that's what it did just being plated. This side's sort of okay. Maybe too thick with the nickel.